welcome to Perspectives in Focus. I'm your host, Tia Young, and we have a thought-provoking and compelling show for you this evening. I have a question for you. What do you do when you watch a loved one die because of mistakes and irresponsibility of those very professionals who have taken a pledge to care for and save the sick and the disabled? Well, our guest and family suffered through such an ordeal 25 years ago, and she is here today to tell her story. Jo Hamilton is an author and poet. She wrote her first short story as a writer in 1964. The name of that short story is entitled Because of a Doll. Jo was presented with the Golden Poet Award for 1989 in Washington, D.C. by Bob Hope, the great Helen Hayes, and Willard Scott for the poem His House. Jo has been publishing collections of poetry since 1971. She was born in Iowa and grew up on a farm with her parents and her brothers. Today, Jo is going to share with us from her recent book, For the Love of Scott, by Olmstead Publishing Company, in which she recollects her family's poignant story of love, bewilderment, and lingering frustration when faced with catastrophic medical errors that cost her brother Scott the ultimate sacrifice. Oh, what happened?
Well, what happened was after his third round, they did a CAT scan, they did blood work, and his cancer was completely gone. There was no sign of cancer in his body. Amazing. They told him he was in complete remission. They don't use cure with cancer because, you know, there's never really a cure for cancer. Yes. But he was, as far as he was concerned, he was home free. And so they said, we really want you to go and have one more treatment. And he had initially signed up for a trial because there was this new drug called cisplatin, which was a new chemo drug, and they were trying to get a lot of information and data about the drug. So he agreed. It meant that he would have to have some extra blood drawn, and they would monitor him probably much more carefully with side effects. But he agreed to do that, and they said, well, so he was telling them, well, great, then I'm done, right? I don't have to have any more chemo. And the doctors are like, well, we think you should have another round because it would guarantee you'd probably never have to worry about cancer again. And don't forget, you signed up for this study, this trial, and we'd like to continue, you know, having that data for future purposes. And so he really didn't want to do it, and he called me on Thanksgiving, and he said, what do you think I should do? And I said, Scott, you know, I don't know, that's really your decision, but they're the experts. I mean, that's what they do. And if they're telling you you might have to go for 5 more days as opposed to worrying about the rest of your life being cancer-free, I don't know, maybe you should think about that. So, you know, basically we told him it was his choice, it was his life and his body, and he should think about it and do what he thought was best. And I think he kind of got shamed into coming back. Right. You know, he wanted to do the right thing. He wanted to keep his part of the bargain. So he went back for the 4th round, and they hooked him up on Monday, and within a couple hours he started feeling kind of weird, and he told my parents, who were with him, and his fiance, that he felt really sick. And normally he never got nauseous because they had nauseous medication that would keep him from becoming too sick, and they administered that, but he just got, you know, worse and worse and worse. And so my dad questioned the nurse, and he said, this isn't normally the way that he responds, and it seems kind of quick for him to be feeling this bad. And they're like, oh, it's just, you know, he's just psychosomatic because this is his last treatment. He wants to get it over with, so it's probably just an unconscious reaction.
They always have an answer, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
They always have an answer.
Couldn't be anything but. Well, so he went through the first day, and by the second day, he was just screaming in pain, and he had lost his hearing, was going. He couldn't hear. He started having nosebleeds, and things were just going south, and he was begging them to just please stop the treatment, you know, that he just couldn't stand it. So my dad and mom again asked them to, you know, what was going on. Maybe they should stop the treatment. At one point, I think my dad even said, if you don't take the needle out, I'm going to take it out myself. And so they called the doctors in. They all had a little conference and basically said, you know, there's nothing wrong. It's just the chemo. We speeded up the drip a little bit to help him finish maybe a half an hour sooner or a half a day sooner. And they gave him more Valium and more pain medication to kind of quiet him down. But they told my parents, they said, you have to talk him in to keep going because, you know, he's in this trial and he really needs to finish this trial. And plus, if he doesn't, he might get the cancer back.
So when you say trial, that was like an experimental?
It was because they were gathering the data for this cisplatin, this new drug, yeah. So my mom and dad somehow, you know, bowed down to them and went back in, and against their parental guidance, their intuition, and their instincts, they talked Scott into continuing. And by the 5th day, his last day, he was so weak he couldn't get out of bed. And every treatment before, he had gotten up and walked out of the hospital and they'd gone home, but this time he had to be wheeled out in a wheelchair. They couldn't take him home, so they spent the night there, and within 24 hours, he was readmitted because he was just deathly sick. And he told the doctor at the emergency room, he said, I feel like I'm dying. You guys, I don't know what's wrong, but I feel like I'm dying, and I think it's the chemo. And his doctor said, oh, Scott, it's not the chemo, and we're not going to let you die. Don't you worry. We'll fix this. And that was the beginning of the end.
They cannot fix it.
They could not fix it.
They cannot fix it.
It took a month for them to try and fix him.
Yeah.
But it didn't work, so.
Mm. Well, I want to say that in reading your book, it's only 174 pages.
It is.
But it is so powerful. I was transfixed back to the time from the very beginning when you talked about needing to go home and get some of that good dirt and soil and bring it back here so you could feel connected. Mm-hmm. I felt like I could feel the dirt in my hands. I felt like I could smell it after the rain. And it was all through the book. I felt like I was right there with you, experiencing everything, even down to Scott's pain. The book is just so well written. And I just thank you for that, because as I said earlier, it was healing, you know, healing for me and some of the things that I'm going through right now. Actually, as I said earlier, my youngest brother passed from complications from prostate cancer almost a month ago. And the emotions of our family is still pretty raw at times. There are times that everything is fine, and then there are other times the waterworks is just everywhere, you know, and you can't seem to control it. I've had so many different emotions. What kind of emotions engulfed you over the past 25 years? And do you still have those same emotions, or have you, you know, moved to a different level, or a different level of acceptance, if that could ever be?
Emotions, the emotions that I've gone through the past 25 years have been from A to Z. And, you know, initially, and everyone's path is different. Everyone's grief is different because all of our losses are different. And each one in our family handled this differently. For me, I pretty much stayed numb for months after Scott died. We were all, I think, so drained after that vigil. I mean, it was a month, and pretty depleted, I would say. Once the numbness left and you moved through that, then I got very angry.
Yes.
You know, which was a survival thing more than anything, because initially I just wanted to lay down and die. I just felt like I don't really care.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Yes.
It